I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog .stampwithelaine.com. Today's project is an integral pop-up card using a partial die cutting technique. So the pop-up is in this section here, and I've cut it from the same piece of cardstock. I'm using the photopolymer stamp set Sweetest thing, which has a set of coordinating dies called the Jar of Sweets Framelits dies. If you purchase them together, then it will save you 10%. And the dies I'm using are the jars and some sweets. And these sweets emboss as well as cut. The papers I'm using are from How Sweet It Is. These jars you can cut out with your framelits. So these are just bits left, and that's the reverse. The inks I'm using are Coastal Cabana Early Espresso Grey Granite, and the stamping blends are in Lovely Lipstick. This is the dark one, the dark Granny Apple Green, the dark Pineapple Punch, and the dark Highland Heather. Versamark ink, embossing buddy, white embossing powder, and a heat tool, big shot, and the magnetic platform. The card base, this is half an A4 sheet. In Europe this will measure 8 1/4 inches by 5 7/8 inches. In metric that's 21 centimeters by 14.85 centimeters and folded in half. Melon Mambo matte layer on the card front, which measures 5 5/8 inches by 3 7/8 inches. In metric that's 14.3 by 9.8 centimeters. For the pop-up mechanism you need that in Whisper White, and that's 8 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. In metric that's 21 centimeters by 14 centimeters long. You need to do a bit of scoring with the Whisper White one. Long side on top, score at 3 3/4 inches, and then you partially score at the 6-inch mark, say about half an inch in at the top and at the bottom. In metric that's 9.5 centimeters, and partially score 1.3 centimeters down from the top at the 15.2 centimeter mark, and up 1.3 centimeters from the bottom edge at the 15.2 centimeter mark as well. Whisper White piece for the card insert inside, and that measures 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. That's 9.5 by 14 centimeters. We'll also need some Whisper White scrap, Highland Heather, Pineapple Punch, and Melon Mambo scrap. The How Sweet It Is Designer Series paper is 3 3/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches, 9.5 centimeters by 14 centimeters. And then you need another piece which will go on the front here of the pop-up mechanism, and that measures 2 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. So in metric that's 5.7 by 14 centimeters. Take a ruler and your pop-up mechanism piece, and you want to draw a line between your partial score lines. I'm going to insert a foam mat underneath my grid paper because I'm stamping with photopolymer stamps, and using my pencil line as a guide, stamp in Coastal Cabana this fattish jar. Actually I'll stamp this jar first because of the stem, and I want that on the line here, and that gives me a guideline as to where to stamp the other jar. Bring in the magnetic platform, and I'll also need my big shot. Now, in a previous blog post last month in April, I mentioned that Stampin' Up will no longer be including the big shot in our next annual catalogue, and that launches 2 weeks in 2 weeks. The reason why they're doing that is because they're moving toward liaising directly with the manufacturer rather than through a third party, which basically means that they're cutting out the middleman. They can have better control over the manufacturing process, which will allow them to implement die and folder ideas. They cannot give us a timeline just at the moment because of the new direct with manufacturer relationship. It's still in its infancy, so they will keep us posted, and in the meantime do be assured that any upcoming dies will also work with the current big shot. It may require an extra shim, but each big shot can differ slightly anyway because it's governed by how often it's been used or how old the machine is. Partial die cutting technique. So you've got your magnetic platform down there, your base cutting plate, your cardstock, and you can see where I've drawn a line across there for the dies. So I'm going to place my die on there, cutting edge face down. I want the fattish jar. I'm going to run my washi tape across this portion here. Now I know that comes way below that score line. Stamped it crooked. Then I'll need to place my plate so that it is shy of this line here. Where the sandwich has got the 2 cutting plates, it will die cut straight through. Where it doesn't, and you've only got the 1 plate, then you won't have any pressure to exert on the die, so therefore it will not cut. So having done that, I shall run it through the big shot off camera and I'll be back. So carefully peel that back, reinforce that just at the 6-inch line. So now that's a mountain fold, and the other piece would be a valley fold. Back portion, you want to put a bit of adhesive on your DSP, insert it into the crease and adhere it. Now for this piece, originally I had given you a precise measurement for it, but in fact it doesn't matter, you know, as long as it's wider than that panel. If you just offer it up to that section there, let's cut that the proper width though. So it should be 5.5 inches. 5.5 inches it was. You need to offer it back up to this portion here. A little bit of adhesive there so that it's like a post-it note. And allow it to dry. So I'm just going to reposition the frame on where I previously cut it and feel it go back into the previous cut. Right, okay, so take that off, and then I want to place that over my big shot again, make my big shot sandwich, magnetic platform, base cutting plate, the paper with the dies, and then top cutting plate, and run it through the big shot. So I'll do that off camera and I'll be back. So I'll carefully peel off the washi tape. And you're left with a silhouette of the jars in the bottom half of this paper. Then you can adhere it to the panel C. This is A, B, C. Okay. So a bit of adhesive there, round the jar. Then bring in the big guns and trim that off. Bring in my foam mat again to do a little bit of stamping inside the jars. Coastal Cabana. Grey granite for the jelly babies. Oh, and I'll add a pool party one as well. I don't think we've got a Coastal Cabana Stampin' Blend. And on a scrap of Wisp White, I'm going to stamp this tall, narrow jar. Stamp the inside. Swap Inks, Early Espresso. And I'll colour that in as well. And I've added some stamping blends. This is the Crumb Cake combo. I've added the lovely lipstick dark. We'll set that aside because we'll need to die cut it, and I'll just tackle the inside of the card first and just pop it down here. Back with the colours, and I'll probably fast forward this. Last die cut to do. So my magnetic platform, base cutting plate, die with the cutting edge face down on top of the image, top cutting plate, and I'm ready to run it through the big shot. So I've die cut that, and I'll put it in front of this. So I only want a tiny bit of adhesive on the back down here. And it's time to adhere it to the rest of the card. So matte layer first. Make sure it's equidistant all round. Now you only want to put glue on this panel A, which is the top of your pop-up, and then leave an even border all round. That goes on top like that. Now there needs to be a little bit of adjustment because the border's not showing, so I'm just going to put that on my trimmer off a tad. Adhesive on the back, and adhere that to the inside of my card. Run the bone folder through. I'm just going to put a band of tape on the back to keep the ribbon secure, and then pop the ribbon round here and tie a bow. I'm going to keep it on the roll, and I'll probably speed this up. Just trim the bow off. Reinforce that first. Last thing to do is the embossing buddy all over. Versamark ink onto the label and stamp. Then the happy birthday sentiment. Try and center it on here. White embossing powder. tool. The trick with the heat tool is just to keep it in one spot and move it slowly around. If you tilt your cardstock up like this, you can see when the embossing powder starts to bubble. You can overheat the embossing powder, and you know when that's overheated because it will look dull and flat. So you don't want to overheat it. So back with my magnetic platform. I just only want a little bit. Bottom cutting plate, cardstock die on top, and my scraps of paper, and Mambo. Top cutting plate, and I'll go and run that through the Big Shot. I'm just going to attach some glue dots on the back of the sweet so I can put it on the label. Pop dimensionals on here to sandwich the ribbon in. And I think we can safely say that the card's finished. Integral pop-up system that stands up like that. One in the Highland Heather and one with the Coastal Cabana ribbon. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. Thanks for joining me today, and do give me a thumbs up if you like this project. I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.